In this video, we're going to take a look at the index ETF, the SPY, the Q, the IWM, and then we're going to take a look at Tesla and some of the semiconductor stock that I follow, and then the FAANG stock. Let's look at the SPY here on a weekly chart. We see that you kind of formed a little bit of an evening star here a few weeks ago, and it's been breaking down and been down for 3 consecutive weeks. Right, so if we take a look at the daily here, on the daily chart, I am still looking for this 277.64 to get tagged, essentially this support level, and it still have to break back above this trend line and this pivot in order to convince me that it is going back up toward the all-time high there. But until then, I'm basically looking at the 277 support to get tested. Now the Q, you look at the Q here on the weekly, pretty much the same as the SPY. Here's that little evening star type of weekly pattern. It broke down and it's been coming down for the last 3 weeks. Right? And also looking at the daily chart, I am still looking at this 175.79 support level to get tagged. It broke this trend line or this channel, and right now basically it looks like it is heading down. Although there's always a possibility for it to go back up, but it has to break this trend line and also this pivot level in order to be convincing for me to say that this trend is reversing back up. Then here's the IWM. The IWM also, been down for 3 consecutive weeks, and it did not form a evening star, the classic evening star, but it did have a outside week here. Right, this is the outside week, right? And it broken down. So essentially, on the daily, I am looking for this thing to break this 149 support and move down to test the 145.37. So let's take a look at Tesla. Tesla been on the news recently, and it has been clobbered recently also. So before I continue, I'd like to ask you to click the thumbs up if you like the content in this video. If you are not a subscriber on my YouTube channel, click the subscribe and the notification icon to avoid missing any future video. Now let's continue looking at Tesla here. You see Tesla, once it broke this 248, it just came straight down pretty much. So right now, basically looking at this 178, waiting for this thing to come down and tag to 178 and then see how it react. If we take a look at the daily chart here, so here's this 178. So I want to see, would it be able to get a bounce and then set up a little bit of a short squeeze and then maybe squeeze it back up to this 216 and even possibility of 248. And that's why I probably will look for some sort of a long and play a little bit of a short squeeze up. All right. And here's the Semiconductor Etf. So looking at the Semiconductor Etf, this is one ugly chart. You see how steep that it come down. And this is primarily due to the trade dispute between the U.S. and China. This is one sector is going to get affected the most. And if this trade dispute with China continues. So if we take a look at the daily here on the SMH, the Semiconductor Index ETF, it came down to this 99.13 level, the support zone that we've been watching, right? And it's a pretty steep decline, so I wouldn't be surprised to see a little bit of a dead cat bounce before it continued down. And I'd be looking at this area here, the 88. That would be the next possible support level, and the area down here near the 80, right? So, and looking at Intel, you can see how ugly this chart is on a weekly chart on Intel. This is one ugly chart, ugly, ugly, ugly. I can't stop saying that, but hey, look at this topping candle here. It tried to get up and it just trapped some additional longs here. So it's going to come down, and then it's going to get these long to puke out when it get below this low here. So basically still looking for this 41.58 to get tagged. So just kind of keep an eye on that. Stay away from the semiconductor stock on the long side until it sort of stabilizes and then starts showing some sign of a reversal. But like I said on the previous video, I believe the business cycle is on the upside is already completed. It is on a down cycle right now, so just the beginning of a down cycle. So I'd be really cautious with the semiconductor sector right now. And looking at Micron, see here the weekly is also very ugly, right? It's almost just straight down the last 3 weeks. And here's the daily chart. Try to get a little bit of a bounce here with this hammer. And got a little continuation on Friday, but I wouldn't write anything home about this thing because I'm still looking for this thing to come down to 32.66 and possibly lower. Right? And then looking at AMD seems like the last holdout, and some might even say, hey, look at this. It could be a little bit of a bull flag. It could be, but I wouldn't count on it. I think eventually AMD is going to get hit pretty hard because fundamentally, this thing is not that strong. Although there's a lot of hype recently that got pushed the AMD up, but I'd be looking forward to break down, continue to move down here. See, book this trend line. Continue to look forward to come down to tag this 25 area. And once you break that 25, I'd be looking at somewhere around this next level, somewhere down at the 21. Right? And here's NVDA, even though after reported earning and all this hype about the graphic chip business is coming back and so forth, it is still down, continue to go down. And here you see there's this little evening star type of pattern, right? And then we follow by a outside week, and then a break of an inside week. So there's a lot of breakage here and a lot of negative bearish pattern on NVIDIA. And you see it came down to this 144 support. So maybe we get a little bounce and then come down here, right? And basically be looking at the 125 area and possibly before that, maybe the 131, right? And then looking at the FAANG stock, starting off with Facebook, you see that also been down, 3 consecutive weeks. And one might say that maybe it is trying to come back up to this 220-ish level, the all-time high. Maybe, but I think it is coming down as the market continues to come down because it broke this channel and right now it's sitting at 180.74, this support zone. The next area of support that I'll be watching will be 174. And here, Amazon is also on a weekly. You can see that here is this evening star type of a pattern, and it is just starting to break down. So once again, I'm looking at this on a daily. Here's the downtrend. Come down, test this channel, bottom lower channel trend line. Then it breaks and come down and test that 1744. Okay. And on Apple, look at this. Apple is one ugly chart also. Right? So you see that kind of trapped some of these late longs up here and then came down. So, this is primarily because of the increase, the tariff from 10% to 25% on the $200 billion import from China. And that really triggered that. Right? So we'll be watching Apple. And Apple is another one that will be affected the most by this trade dispute between U.S. and China. So we'll take a look at the daily. On the daily chart, sitting somewhere near the 177.75 support. So maybe get a little bit of a bounce, but be looking for this thing to come down to this 170 and possibly to the 160 area. Right, essentially filling this gap here, this gap right here. Looking for this gap to get filled. See here, it could come down to fill this gap and then come down and fill this gap. All right, so Netflix, all right, Netflix sort of like trying to hold on, right? But again, you can see that here's another more like a evening star type of pattern, and it is on the inside week. No, it's not in an inside week. Kind of got hitting on this entire topping tail. But if we take a look at this daily chart here, you see this, trapping a lot of leg long. This is like a FOMO, right? Okay, and so again, last Friday, same thing. So these guys are going to get wiped out. They're going to puke it out when it break this 342. So I'm looking for this thing to come down, and then maybe get these guys to puke out and possibly get a little bit of a bounce or something. But I eventually looking for this thing to come down to 318, right? And finally, looking at Google. Google is also one ugly chart as well. You can see that this week here, that's the earning week, and this is a massive, ugly bearish candle. So right now, it is sitting on an inside week here. So I'm looking for this thing to break this inside week on the downside, and looking on the daily, you can see this thing come down to this 1093. Basically, that's what I'm looking for. And once it get down to this 1093, maybe get a little chop and then work itself below this 1,000 mark and come down to the 984. Right, so that is the look on the ETF, the index ETF, the semiconductor stocks, and the FAANG stock. And good luck.